World Championships are also side. And, of course, Claude Crequellion, the subject of controversy 1 year ago.
It looked as though Fignon there said something to Sean Kelly he didn't like, and I think it was go to the front, and Kelly told him in broad Irish exactly what he thought of that.
It's Lejarreta of Spain who's having an excellent year, and his country well represented by this young man.
Lejarreta setting the pace at the front at the moment. He's ridden the Tour of Italy, Tour of Spain and the Tour of France this year. What a great season he's had, finishing 5th in the Tour de France.
The lead was almost 3 minutes, Phil, and it went down to 40 seconds almost immediately. But since then, it's really hovered at that point. And I think the breakaway still feels secure, still feels possible that they can win, even though the distance is so small. So is the distance to the finish line.
Well, we're seeing here, Brian, the gap up to the leaders as our helicopter camera takes us further along the road. It's still a considerable gap, as you say. There they are. And they're being led by Stephen Rooks, who did a terrific ride to cross this gap. He came across on his own. He's really added the power now to the engine here. Thierry Claverola, for my money, has been the star of this championship in second place, but now surely he's getting tired. He's been out in front for 95 miles.
He shared the spotlight, however, with Konishev, the elegant Soviet rider, just disappearing off to the left. Claverola is certainly the sentimental favorite here, not only for the French crowd, but for everyone who has watched this race. I would agree with you. He really has been the star.
Tall figure of Stephen Rooks trying to keep this gap alive as he changes down the gears. At least the climbs have suited him, and still he wants some help from Claverola. But he must now see, Brian, looking over his shoulder there, this group with Martinelli and Sean Kelly, the two boys in green, Steve Bauer here in the blue jersey to our left, and Greg LeMond driving the group at the front.
Also in the middle of that group is Gianni Bugno, a man who many of the riders feared in this race, especially on the hills. Back again to the breakaway now. Konishev on the right, Rooks on the left, and Claverola, the Frenchman. Here's Greg LeMond powering that breakaway alongside his friend, Steve Bauer.
These riders are absolutely soaked. This has been an horrendous day for them. The rain has been torrential. The course has been the most severe since Solange in 1980, and that, of course, is just a few miles down the road.
Gianni Bugno and Sean Kelly and the others in the field, even they are looking behind themselves nervously. Only recently have they left the remainder of the big field.
It's rather ironic, Brian, to think that Claude Crequellion on the far right and on the left of the picture there, Steve Bauer, are back in the final showdown again, because last year, of course, we had that big controversial finish. These are the three leaders, and quite clearly they are losing their impetus. Stephen Rooks is doing most of the work. Konishev is looking back, and it seems to me that Konishev is the crafty one of this breakaway. He might still be conserving something for the finish.
I think the chase group now really senses the kill, and the body language of the breakaway tells us that, yes, indeed, they feel like they are beaten at this point. So now, if anything, the pace in this chase is starting to pick up. Bauer at the front, and Fignon sitting in second spot.
This is the last chance for these now. This is the springboard, the final climb of the hill. If they don't go here, they can wave goodbye to the 3 medals because they're up the road. You've got Sean Kelly. You have at the back now Greg LeMond. On the far right in blue is Bugno. And Martinelli to our far right at the back of that group. There they are, making their way up towards the Côte de Montagnole for the 21st and final time. And they're all that is left, and all who can affect this world title now from the 190 who set out.
Still a lot of nervous looking around, even among these 9 riders. They sense that the chase is going to be successful, but they're looking to each other to make the final little bit of the chase. And here now, Rooks leads the 3 up the hill. Thierry Claverola, his hopes of winning still must be alive. I think of the 3, he's the only one being driven now, perhaps, by the crowd alone.
Konishev has refused to do any of the pacemaking for the last couple of miles. The 23-year-old Soviet man from Gorky. This is the first year we've seen the Soviets as professional riders. They've taken a little while to settle into the scene, but now it looks as though Konishev is beginning to impress. And there's an attack here. Laurent Fignon has accelerated from the front of the pack, and for the moment they're fighting to grab him, but that's Fignon, and this is the time to do it.
He's made a very excellent move here on the final climb and has really opened a significant gap on the rest of the field. He's apparently caught the others sleeping, or certainly timed a move that he feels like is going to succeed all the way to the end.
Well, anybody who wants to win now has got to counter the move by Laurent Fignon, a man driven by the disappointment of losing the Tour de France this year to Greg LeMond. What finer place to make up for it than the World Championship in France, and the crowd are going to shout him all the way up this climb now. The 3 riders are only just in front.
You can see the determination on his face, and if anyone is not familiar with the drive that this man has, you can certainly see it right here.
He's a great competitor, Brian. We saw the way he took the yellow jersey in the Pyrenees in the Tour de France. He lost it back to Greg LeMond. He took it back again and then lost it in the end. A look over his shoulder there to see what the progress is like. And he's coming towards the top of the Côte de Montagnol for the final time. And just around the corner ahead of him are the three leaders in the world title.
It's amazing how steep this climb is and how effortless these riders seem to be able to go up it when they are determined, as Fignon is right here. He makes another corner, many switchbacks on this climb, and he is a man possessed by a vision of rainbow jersey that he could win as a world champion.
Well, there's the chasing group, and they're losing ground on Fignon, and Fignon will know it now. He's gambled everything on this attack. So it looks as though Laurent Fignon is heading towards victory in the World Championship.
Claviola and Konishev with Laurent Fignon in hot pursuit.
So there's just 4 miles remaining now of the 163, and Greg LeMond has made his move. Look at this. Greg LeMond has flown across the gap from the chasing group. He's caught Laurent Fignon, and he's making it look so easy. Fignon glances over his shoulder there, but I don't think he'll know yet that Greg LeMond has joined him. That is a fine piece of riding by the American. Now he knows, because he's looked through to his inside, and LeMond attacks him. And Fignon is finding somewhere the reserves to go and catch up with LeMond.
Laurent Fignon's worst nightmare has come back to life. Greg LeMond surging on the hill in the final stage of the Tour de France. These two fought some 3 minutes apart. Here they're side by side on the final climb.
And look at this, LeMond goes again. LeMond goes again, and this time he has the three leaders in sight. So for the first time in the best part of 3.5 hours, the men at the head of the World Championship can be seen. And it's the American Greg LeMond who races to get across to them first. He's dragging with him Laurent Fignon, and Fignon's in trouble. Fignon has lost the gap just like he did in the Tour de France. LeMond is going away from him. So Laurent Fignon, but the top of the hill is coming, Brian, and Fignon can come back yet.
Here comes LeMond right around the trio. And look at Claviola. The fight in him is not yet gone. As LeMond comes by, it is the Frenchman that goes to his wheel as they begin now the descent.
So we have LeMond leading from Claviola, Konishev and Stephen Rooks. Fignon is just off the back. This is Steve Bauer here, also trying to cross the gap. And look at this, Steve Bauer has a flat back tyre. I'm certain, Brian, that Steve Bauer had a flat back tyre there as he was coming down this descent.
He is certainly, yes it is. Look, the flat rear tire, he's signaling, but it's far too late to change a wheel and get back in. A man that probably has the most incredible bad luck when he's so close to victory or a chance at it here in the World Championship again.
I can't believe that, Brian. Last year disqualified from the World Championship. Now he's out at the most crucial moment with a flat. He won't believe it either. But this is now developing into one of the finest finishes for years. And this is the group behind, and they look as though they're beaten. Robert Miller is there in the white jersey, number 3 in line. These are the stragglers now on what has been a day of attrition in this rain. Most of them have given up, and we hear that less than 50 are still riding around the course. Still the crowd cheer up the remnants of this World Championship, and this bunch here do not know what is happening at the front and what a dramatic end we're in for.
The final 2 miles of the race course, and on the descent now, it is very difficult for attacks to happen and gaps to be closed. There's Laurent Fignon, though. He has rejoined and, in fact, gone away from the small group that he was with. And Greg LeMond is the one that's making the chase right now.
But, Brian, I can't believe this. This World Championship is coming down between the two same men who dominated the Tour de France, and it's Fignon just ahead now of Greg LeMond, and the other three trying to match the pace. We're on the descent now, down towards the finish in Chambéry.
They've certainly thrown caution to the wind, even on this wet road. No tiptoeing around the corners for this group, not with a World Championship at stake. 90 kilometers an hour, nearly 60 miles an hour for the breakaway group. And Fignon has been caught by LeMond. There are 5 riders together now. Rooks in the back, 2 Frenchmen, the Soviet and American Greg LeMond.
Well, the odds now surely are on the side of the French with 2 riders here. But
He barely wore his rainbow jersey. He was tragically killed shortly after winning in 1970. Of course, Bernard Hinault won the championship race in 1980 and on French soil. The first American who made a mark on the event was Jonathan Boyer, one of the true early pioneers of American cycling.
And we're now back in the last 2 miles of this year's title race, and Konishev of the Soviet Union leading the race down the mountain towards the finish in Chambéry. And he's being chased here by Clavarola, and these are the remnants. We just got a glimpse there of the 3 riders who are chasing them, and it includes Greg LeMond. Through the chicane, the road's now extremely wet and slippery.
It appears as though Clavarola and Konishev, 2 of the original heroes, are now back at the front. But they look a little slow, and even Konishev now is looking back at the other 3. And here's Greg LeMond in full cry. He's caught them again.
Well, LeMond was asking for somebody to come and help with the chase there, and Laurent Fignon, thinking of his teammates, Clavarola, would not take up the pace.
Even a hand gesture by LeMond there, a little bit frustrated, but he's nevertheless closed the gap to the leaders, and we're back together with 5. And here's Kelly now. Sean Kelly has come up from the group behind and joined the front group as well.
So the great veteran of the World Championship, Sean Kelly, who's won a silver medal as far back as 1982 in England, is now back in this race. He's prepared for it. He wants to win it, and surely at 33 now, the man in green, this has got to be his last shot.
He's certainly one of the most dangerous sprinters in the group. And here goes Laurent Fignon, not wanting to wait for a sprint against Sean Kelly or Greg LeMond or any of the others. Laurent Fignon, again, very animated here as we come down to just the final mile and a half or so of this race.
6 riders remaining. Clavarola dangling off the back. Perhaps at last the man from France is feeling the pressure. Fignon has eased. LeMond has marked him, and somebody's gone, and it looks to me as though Rooks has gone. Rooks has put in another attack. He's opened the gap. Now, can they react? Fignon is tired after that attack.
And Greg LeMond, having just caught Fignon, also tired. Those 2 are watching each other, and here goes Rooks, taking advantage of the hesitation, and once again, it's LeMond that takes up the chase.
Where does Greg LeMond find his energy from? This man will not give up this year. The winner of the Tour de France is now chasing down Stephen Rooks. Tremendous attack going on here by Greg LeMond. He could still win this World Championship if he can catch up with Stephen Rooks.
Pulsing, throbbing pain. When doctors were asked what they take more often for their everyday pain, Tylenol, extra-strength Tylenol, Advil, or Bayer, more doctors take Bayer. For pain, Bayer is the wonder drug that works wonders.
He who brings me the kingdom's most valuable object shall marry my daughter.
Sire, I slayed 2 dragons for the kingdom's most valuable object.
Next.
I swam crocodile-infested waters for this.
Next.
Sire, I didn't slay any dragons, but look, a Sony Trinitron XBR, incredible picture, amazing SRS stereo sound. Nothing's more valuable.
Bingo.
The Sony Trinitron XBR TV. Every castle should have one.
The NFL dream season reaches its peak. The 78 Steelers battle the 72 Dolphins to determine football's best ever team. The Dream Bowl, Sunday night on ESPN.
In the World Championship press room, a few hundred feet from the maddening crowd of the finishing line, reporters from a dozen European nations have already begun filing their stories, even before the result is known. Others have chosen the press room as a quiet haven, or perhaps to call a curious editor in Paris. At the television grandstand, which is of Olympic proportions, the tension has mounted. And for Bob LeMond, Greg's father, and Fred Mengoni, Greg's mentor, the pictures tell it all. Greg is still in contention. Otto Giacom, Greg's faithful trainer, is also tense. He's not alone.
Greg LeMond has caught and passed Stephen Rooks and Sean Kelly. The feared sprinter is right on his wheel. Rooks tries to tack on to those 2. They look over their shoulders, and just in the upper right corner of the screen come the rest of the players, led by Laurent Fignon.
Well, we're approaching the final half mile of this world title. There are 6 riders here who could now take it away with them. And here we come, the red kite up there says 1 kilometre from the finish. Laurent Fignon. On the far right is Konishev. The green jersey is Kelly, but the attack goes. Laurent Fignon has gone. LeMond has countered the move. Kelly looks to me, Brian, as though he's struggling.
Well, Laurent Fignon has decided to take matters into his own hands here in the final kilometer of the race course. Less than half a mile to go now. LeMond is on his wheel, and Fignon making his bid for victory. Kelly's got the good position behind LeMond for Rooks and Clavarola and the Soviet Konishev in the rest of the spots behind them. Now Fignon gives it up a little bit, and even LeMond is looking around nervously, and so is Kelly.
This is a tense finish. There's so many riders here know now they are a spit away from a world title, and nobody willing to open the chase because the man that does will lose the title. That's what they're thinking. Konishev on the far left, a Russian rider in a professional world title for the first time in the history of the sport. He would love the title today. Laurent Fignon being marked all the time by Greg LeMond. They'll see the finish now, and this is the sprint starting.
Fignon breaks on the right and Greg LeMond on the left. LeMond in the lead, going to the straightaway line. Sean Kelly on his wheel in second spot. LeMond still in the lead, coming down the straightaway. Kelly makes a break on the left side. And on the right, it's Konishev, the Soviet. Greg LeMond leading. His hand in the air. He's got it. The World Championship title to Greg LeMond.